welcome to the Dr. Melissa Show. Today we are transitioning from the topic of happiness to something a little bit more specific. Many of our patients at Honey Dental request for a better smile. They love us helping them transform their smiles with whiter and straighter teeth because they want to feel more confidence when they smile. They want to feel more attractive. And one of the biggest motivators is dating. So some of them are coming out of a divorce and they feel that they want a better smile to kind of get back in the scene. And some of them are just wanting a more perfect smile for jobs or for first impressions. One of the biggest things about first impressions is that when you meet someone, they figure out very fast if they find you attractive, usually within seconds. And the smile is a big contributor of that attraction, that initial attraction. Some companies that currently kind of use that to their advantage would be Tinder, for example, because people usually decide within a couple seconds if they find someone else attractive, so they can swipe on that person within seconds. And so the smile is pretty important to our patients, and so we want to kind of spend a little time discussing the dating scene. A lot of the people that work at the practice and the people that we know, our patients, dating is an important part of their lives. I feel that you spend a lot of your life preparing for a career and other things. Dating should be part of that as well, because it does lead to you finding someone that you ultimately will spend your life with, and that's an important part of your life. So it deserves some time for you to kind of learn about it and kind of consider how you want to go about it, and maybe learn from other people's experiences that can maybe help you in your own relationships. So going around, we're going to kind of talk about our own dating experience and kind of start off. So I have been dating for over 10 years. I'm married for 2 years, but I've been divorced from my first marriage, and that was a 7-year marriage.
I'm Taylor, and I have been dating for, I would say, about maybe 3 or so years. I've had a long-term relationship in that period, so I don't really have a lot of dating experience, but here I am.
And I'm Helen, and I've been actually dating for probably over 20 years. I mean, same man. I'm married to him.
I'm Megan, and I recently started dating just because I was in a more of a long-term relationship for 3 years. Before that, I didn't really date too much because I was focusing more on college and everything. So now I'm definitely gone on quite a few dates these past couple of weeks. So
sounds fun.
My name is Ashley, and I've been dating for 6 months, and couldn't say that I have too much experience. This is my first and longest relationship. So,
yeah, she's a brand new baby.
I'm Danae. I've been dating for 9 years. It has been off and on, so I do have experience in dating as well.
So one of the things that I think is kind of interesting is before 2010, the dating scene is very different from what it is today. And so when I was dating the first time, I was in my early 20s, and the way that the dating kind of came about was slightly different than dating this time around. And so a big difference is technology. So things like Tinder and Snapchat, they've really taken over in the dating scene, and they're now $4 billion industries. So they're definitely doing something right with being able to reach how people are willing to start that initial relationship. So before we get too much into modern kind of dating technology and how that translates into behaviors and how we should pay attention to how we conduct ourselves in these social media platforms, I want to kind of go back and discuss just initial dating kind of scenarios so that we can start off on a kind of a novice platform. Mm-hmm. So one of the books I'm going to refer to this time is called From Doormat to Dream Girl by Sherry Argoff. If you Google it, you probably will come up with a different name. But it's nice because it kind of sets a foundation for a lot of principles in dating initial dating and getting that initial interest and first couple of dates out of the way. And then in future podcasts, we'll talk about more developed relationships and tips and information related to long-term relationships. And eventually we'll move on to long-term marriages. One of the podcasts that we're going to be devoted on would be talking with people that have been married for over 20 years. So right now we're just starting at the surface and talking about initial dating experiences. So I remember when I started dating, Facebook wasn't really a thing yet. It just started. And so, but back in college, it just seemed like everybody was single. And so it was very easy to start, meeting someone and assume that this could go somewhere. But what's different about it this time around is when you're in society and you're just meeting people at public places, one of the biggest hindrances is you don't know if you find someone attractive, are they really single? Because then you get up the nerve to even talk to them and then find out they're actually married or in a relationship. So then you just worked yourself up for no reason. So I think that's why some of the things like Tinder are so popular, because it helps you know that the people you're actually talking to are also single and looking for a relationship instead of just someone you're bumping into on the street. But I'm going to kind of start going back in time and just talk about kind of dating before all the social media started. So one of the first things I want to kind of talk about is the initial meeting and how do you get the courage to kind of break that ice and step out of your comfort zone and start meeting someone. So I was in New York City for a little time in my career, and that's kind of, there's a lot of romantic comedies that's set in New York, and I always felt like there could be some story that, is really romantic, and I'm always looking for that, like, initial meeting that just kind of is movie-worthy kind of thing. And the closest example I would have is, in New York, there's a lot of streets that you can walk with a lot of people clustered at red lights and stuff like that. And so one time I was standing there, and I met this guy, and we just kind of looked at each other, and we smiled, and I felt like that was like the purest form of, boy meets girl kind of thing. And it was really sweet, and we started talking, and then we ended up going on a date. I found out he was a pro athlete, and I'm a nerd. There was no future in that. I wasn't going to follow him around the country for whatever he was doing, but it was just cool because it was that was back, when you weren't relying on any kind of digital device to help meet someone. Mm-hmm. Do you guys have any experience with first meetings kind of just in its pure form without any social media, without any cell phone help?
Yeah, I'm from that era. I'm where you have to absolutely have the courage or have a friend or somebody going, oh God, he's cute. Is he single? I wonder if he's looking. Go talk to him. Ask him. Yeah, go get his number. But I remember that's hard. I thought it was hard back then, but in a way, I guess I found it more romantic because it'd be somebody across the room. You kind of catch eyes, you look at each other, you maybe smile, he smiles back, you're like, oh, this is going somewhere. This is going in the right.
That butterfly feeling.
Yes, because you're like, oh my God, he's still staring, he's smiling, oh my goodness, this is exciting. And you have that courage, like you just want to say hi, just something simple, and you just kind of break the ice. But yeah, I've had quite a few scenarios like that, and it was really, whether it was at grocery store, which is kind of like how I met my husband, but it was just something, all he told me was, beautiful. He had a beautiful smile. He just looked at me and said hi, and I was like, "Wow, that's it." Yeah, that was it. I was like,
nice.
"You had me at hi.
You had me at hello." But I miss those days. I don't know how I would do it nowadays. I have no idea. I see what you're saying. It's easier maybe because you just have a device, and I watch you all younger girls doing it, and I'm like, I don't understand how you do it so easily, I guess. I don't know.
I think really just the technology makes it like the rejection easier. You know what I mean?
Oh, maybe that's it.
Like getting rejected is a lot easier over like a social, like your phone than like actually in person. Mm-hmm. But to me, I feel like it's easier to go up to someone and talk to them than it is to look at it all on a phone.
Yeah. What about
so you like that organic kind of
meeting
relationship?
Yeah. If they're interested too, but like if you get rejected in person, that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, oh, you're really cute. I have a girlfriend. Oh.
Okay, just kidding. You're not cute. Bye.
I'm just going to take a few steps back and head my head down low. Yeah, I don't know how everybody does it nowadays, but I miss those days.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I remember the rejection was pretty bad back then because you would go up to someone and your stomach's already kind of like turning on itself, and then you find out that they're taken or something. You just felt like I almost had a heart attack doing this, you know, and for nothing, you know, kind of thing. So a lot of times it may hinder you from wanting to approach someone else because you're like, well, last time it didn't go well. So you have more of these negative kind of barriers for meeting someone that way.
But I think you still do. You'll always keep trying.
Yeah.
Even though. But I don't know how nowadays you would do it. Like, I don't know.
I feel like swiping though, like, you know, on Tinder, before you meet them face to face, you have this understanding that you both are, you know, mutually attracted to each other and you have mutual interests, and it took a step further to go on a date and actually meet each other face to face. But that's, I feel like, one benefit. Actually, I met my boyfriend at a birthday party, our mutual friend's birthday party. And we both talk about how, like, when we first, like, met each other and started talking, like, neither one of us thought that we were into each other. Like, I didn't think he was into me, vice versa. But obviously now looking back, we were both just that nervous. We were, like, just trying to get to know each other as friends. So we didn't have that, mutual understanding. We just thought it was kind of all you just find out as you go. But with social media, you know, you can get everything out of the way before you even meet them face to face.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
I do like that aspect, that at least I know a little bit about them before I go and meet them. So, and I still get butterflies every time. So,
She's like, it works for me.
Background check them.
Yeah.
I think maybe it's just a little bit more efficient use of your time because you know that the person's already interested in you and you're interested in them. So that initial thing is out of the way, and you know that both are supposedly single. So
I think it's also nice just because it's like getting to know them, like their likes and dislikes. Then I have conversation starters, and there's not always like that really super awkward silence where you're like, so the weather's nice today.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
And I think, you know, with the phone device, the other risk is once you start getting to know this person, if during the initial contact before you even meet, if they decide that this is not right for me, a lot of times one of them will just end it. That way, you know, it's just kind of, you won't have to spend all this energy going on a date with someone that already knows it's not going to work out. So it's almost like it saves you some time, but it does take away a little bit of the, you know, the mystery part of it, right?
Yeah.
Because you get to know them kind of a lot beforehand. So going into the first date, you know, a lot of times, like, you'll learn a lot about yourself, you know, what you want out of the relationship, what you are looking for. So when I was younger, I know when I was dating, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no purpose in mind. I was just trying to meet people and see what's out there. So my mindset was very different than later dating, knowing, okay, this is what I'm looking for. So I'm a lot more focused on what my goals are. But initially when I'm dating people, it's just kind of getting to know them. And I think that mindset of where you are and what you're looking for is pretty important. I don't know how important age is, but whoever you're meeting, if your mindsets are different, like if they're looking for a wife and you're looking to have fun, that's probably not going to work out, kind of thing. And so I know one of my first experiences was in graduate school when I was kind of at this student mingling kind of event. And I met someone who I thought initially was very exciting because he was British, and you know he
was just the
came,
voice.
Yeah,
Right.
He was from Oxford and all that stuff, and I was so excited. I went on a date with him at a coffee shop, and at first the language was really romantic. You know, his accent was just super. I thought it was very attractive, but about an hour and a half into it, I started getting really sick of it. It was really weird because at the beginning I was like, wow, this is very cool. And then I was like, I can't understand half what he's saying. and then I think after the date, I just felt like I miss American boys, so I'm gonna kind of stay there. and I think it made me appreciate like American accent or just normal guys, more, because I experienced that. I'm like, I can't live like that. I don't understand most of what he's saying, and like his little quirks and accents, I don't understand. So I think it's kind of good to even have experiences that didn't turn out well, but it taught you something about what you appreciate more. So next time you see it, because you've had a negative experience, now you're going to appreciate a guy with something, a quality that you didn't really even consider before as a positive.
Yeah.
Do you guys have experiences with that?
With like language or like with an accent?
Just you had a bad experience on a date, and then that taught you something about appreciating the next guy that doesn't do that. For example, like if you go on a date and a guy curses, and you won't go with him again, but the next guy who doesn't curse, it makes you appreciate his kindness or his generosity or his gentleman. Like if he's opening doors for you, you're going to appreciate him more because of the way another guy behaved.
Yeah.
I do definitely get that, where it's like I like the once you have one guy open the door for you, the next time you go out on a date and they don't, you're just like, wait a minute, what? But and there's also been I had one experience where there was a guy I met up with, and basically he was very controlling of the conversation. Like pretty much I didn't get like a word in at all, and when I did, he was kind of like, if we were talking about something where I was like, oh, I really like that movie, he's like, yeah, I hate that movie. So I was like, okay.
So he's on a date by himself.
Yeah, basically. Pretty much. That was actually really fun because I actually texted Helen, and I was just like, help me, please.
And I was like, help 911, help. Not that, oh.
So she called, and then I was like, of course I can come to the office. Yes, of course. I have to go. Okay, bye.
Yeah, have to sneak out of that one.
Do you guys have stories about worst first date experiences, or how you wanted to get out of a situation when you knew kind of this is not going to work out?
I have a safe word now. Pretty much. Yeah.
Everybody have your phones ready if she texts you.
If you get text Peaches, please call me.
Oh. Anybody have a good... it's been a while for me. I don't know.
See, for me though, like I had long-term, like mine was like a long-term relationship, so I haven't really like had the chance to like go out and like date,
mingle.
Yeah, and like I mean, I feel like if anyone's the best person to ask, it would be Megan right now, because she's got it down. She
Are you kidding me? I'm still so awkward every time I go out.
Yeah, but like you have like the stories to tell, whenever it comes to like the weird like dating experiences, because you go out and you meet up with these guys that you're talking to, and so you have like the really quirky, funny like stories about weird first dates,
Even weird second dates.
And thirds and fourths.
I think something that could be a huge turnoff is when the guy just talks too much about himself, or brings up things that are inappropriate for a first date, and they don't understand maybe that disconnect, of what not to talk about on a first date.
Or if you got catfished and he looks nothing like his photo.
That's the worst.
That's the thing with the online, is you don't know where you're gonna get when you actually meet the person.
Yeah,
you'd be like, you don't look like this.
Yeah,
see, is that you?
That's the old school stuff. Yeah, the old school stuff. You there was none of that.
Yeah,
You just
see, nowadays
digital
they have
cameras.
apps. You
no,
can,
it was
give
like it is
yourself
what it
apps.
is. You see the person right there, and you just meet up. Or you had to have the full trust of a friend that says, "Oh, he's really cute. He's really sweet." And you're going, "He better be cute." So it was like just word of mouth or physically seeing somebody. So
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
I think that's why Snapchat is so popular, because you can meet someone on Tinder, move on to Snapchat, snap a picture of yourself, and share that. That way that this is an image you just took, no filter. Not from 5 years ago. It's I mean, I think there are filters where you can be like cats or something. But,
you're like, "Where's your ears?"
Yeah. but it kind of gives you that reassurance. Okay, this person's actually the person that's on Tinder before I even would consider going out with him, kind of thing.
Didn't you have a story like that? That you said they had like one picture looked a certain way, but then when you got like their most recent.
Yeah, and they looked nothing like their Tinder picture. So I was like, was this taken 5 years ago or 10 years ago? Can I get it from last week, please? You know. So when we start kind of talking about first dates and everything, one of the tips that she gave in her book, The Doormat to Dream Girl, is that you always have to place high value on yourself and your time. You want to remain in control of your time and your passions. Just because you meet a cute guy, it doesn't mean you give up everything about yourself to try to accommodate that person. So you still want to keep firm on your own routines and your own standards, so that way he will start valuing you also. So you don't say, well, I'm available anytime you want. You know, you kind of just let him know these are the times I'm available according to my work schedule, according to my workout schedule, according to all this other stuff, my family time, my friends' time. So you basically place him at the bottom of the priority list at the beginning, because he has to understand that he has to work himself up to, you know, in on your list of priority, he has to work himself up to there. It's not like you drop everything for him just because you just met a stranger and you give up everything kind of thing. Do you guys have any experience with that? And either way, like if you had moved everything for this guy and kind of got burned, or if you feel like because I kept in control of my time and my own standards and my own boundaries, the guy ended up showing me more respect.
Well, I definitely have experience with both sides, just because the relationship I was in for about 3 years, I felt like I was the person who was giving more in the relationship. Like I would sacrifice a lot of stuff that I wanted to do for what he wanted to do for his dreams and everything. And now that I'm dating again, it's a struggle to kind of like flip it. But I definitely do understand where it's like, I know what I want, and it's just like, but right now, like, I am looking for somebody, but like, they have to understand, like, work comes first. Like, it's just like, since I'm just getting to know you right now, like, you're not even a part of my life. So why should I, you know, you have to work up to that point. I'm not going to like sacrifice everything for you right now.
So kind of leading into that, this happens sometimes. So these are some, you know, scenarios I'm going to throw out there. Are you willing to alter your plans on short notice to see him because it's convenient? For example, he might say, hey, last minute, basically, hey, are you free tonight? I'm going to hang out with some of my buddies, but then I want to kind of see you afterwards. Is that a scenario that's acceptable to you?
No.
I almost want to be like, well, it depends. Do I have anything I want to do tonight? But if it's like I've already made plans, I'm not dropping it for him.
To me, that's like the guy, he's getting his plans finished and he's saying, hey, this is the window I'm available. Can you squeeze in?
Like he's squeezing you into his little.
Yeah, after he sees his friends. I feel like the priority would be if the guy says that, you know, he likes spending time with his friends, but, you know, if she was free, would she be able to hang out, and he would, you know, come see her first.
And then go hang out with his friends?
And then go hang out with his friends. Because it's kind of also like the timely manner that's respected, like wanting to see her before the, like, booty call time.
Yeah, true. True.
Yeah, I think if you kind of sacrifice that, and you're very, very flexible and you're very accommodating to the point where he feels like, you know, he has you kind of figured out. Like as soon as he contacts you, he knows you will drop everything for him. Then he's more likely to possibly take you for granted, because you want to kind of establish a boundary that, you know, my time is important, and if you want to be a part of my life, you will have to plan that ahead with me and, you know, basically make me a priority. If you're the second choice for him for the night, that means that night you're not his priority. So you don't ever really want to be his second plan or second place in his life, and you want to be first. And so if he's like, I have plans with my buddy, then you can suggest, okay, well, maybe another night would work. But he's like, well, I'll be available after 9 or after 10. When it's past a certain point, you can say, you know, I prefer to see you earlier. You know, that way you kind of set your boundaries and let him know, this is what I expect a man to treat me, and this is how if you want my time, this is how you're going to get it. Even if you really, really want to see him, kind of giving in every little things that he's requesting will make him feel like, you know, I can do all this other stuff and still get her. You know what I mean? So that's kind of one of the tips that she gave, is that you want to kind of have a little bit more strict boundary at the beginning, especially in a relationship, to let the guys know who are trying to pursue that this is what you expect and how you expect to be treated, even if you feel like he's the man of your dreams or something, because you still want to kind of let him know that you respect yourself. Another scenario is if the guy makes a plan with you but he cancels last minute. How do you respond? Let's say you guys are supposed to have dinner and you spent all this time making this delicious meal for him. 30 minutes before he's supposed to show up, he says, hey, I can't make it. Whatever excuse he gives, he's not going to be there. How do you feel you might respond to that?
I think it depends on the excuse. Like, if something's seriously wrong, like say something happened to a family member or something like that, then that's understandable. Or like if he is stuck at work or something, then that's understandable. But if it's just some like bluff excuse that
I'm sick.
Yeah, like yeah, I think it really just depends on the excuse. What do y'all think?
I'm kind of with you on that one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like you put yourself in that situation, that exact spot, reverse the role. Be like, if I really met, you know, like what would be my biggest excuse to really stop a date?
Yeah.
Especially
if you just cooked for him.
Yeah, like if he knows like she's making this elaborate meal for me and it's like, man, I'm so sorry.
And I was going to say that it's got to be more than 30 minutes, especially if you know I'm cooking for you.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, because it's such last minute, and he knows that if he had told you earlier, it would have saved you a lot of time and effort.
Yeah.
It should be like the excuse itself is pretty important. You have to know that this is something that it's absolutely out of his control. But you know, I was asking my husband about this, and he said it's nice for a guy to know that you're still courteous and understanding when it's in that situation, because he's like, there's sometimes, even if we really want to, we're stuck, for example, at work, and we just can't go. Otherwise, the boss is going to fire us. So even if we made a plan, for some reason the office is running late or something and you just can't leave, you would hope that that girl has, you know, the understanding to give you another chance. But even he said, if it becomes a pattern, so if it happens a second time, then it probably just means that he's too busy for you.
The first time it's benefit of the doubt.
Right.
Kind of give him that. And then second time around going, hold on. Yeah. Is this going to be a red flag?
Time.
Yeah, red flags.
Yeah, because the more you kind of give in and just kind of make excuses for him, and you realize that you're always kind of second, third on his list, on his busy schedule, you're kind of training him to take you for granted, you know, in the long run. So that may not be someone that you want to pursue, because eventually it could change, you know, how you even feel about yourself and if you're worth, you know, his time or something. So it's better to kind of protect yourself and make sure that you still have your boundaries, but be understanding if there's a problem the first time, but maybe second time be a little bit more cautious. Then another tip that she gave was, you know, don't try to change dramatically and overcompensate to try to make him like you. Because sometimes, you know, we'll find out like this guy loves basketball, and all of a sudden you're like the biggest basketball fan. You know, you're like, I know this about basketball and this and this. And have you ever had experiences where, you know, not that you became like a diehard fan overnight, but doing that and how that reflects on you to the guy? Basically, you find out he likes something, and all of a sudden you want to adapt to that to try to make him like you. How do you guys feel about that? It doesn't even have to be yourself. It could just be a friend or anybody that you think had that experience.
I feel like sometimes there's like a healthy amount, and like you just, you know, you show a little bit more interest in something because you know that that's important to them, but not like an infatuation with all of their likes. But like, for example, my boyfriend is a diehard Star Wars fan, and I actually have never seen a movie, so or read any of the books. So, and he's read all of the books, and so, you know, I did want to watch an episode just to know like who is Han Solo? I did not know that.
But that's what you're saying. It's like, it's healthy. It's just like,
I'm not like, I read all the books last night.
I didn't sleep.
But I think there is like a healthy like line that you can cross, like Ashley's saying, like if he really likes a show or something or a movie like that, like you're like, oh, I can watch a show. I can kind of like get there where it's like we have something to talk to. It's something he really likes. I can sacrifice it. Whereas if it's like you said, like he really likes basketball and you're like, you just throw yourself into it. You're like, I spent 4 hours last night watching YouTube videos of basketball games and learning all the jargon and everything like that. That's a little too far.
If it doesn't interest you a little bit, then it might be an infatuation. You might be trying too hard to make something work. But
especially since I think it should like go both ways. Like if you have an interest, he should also show interest in learning about your interest as well. And if like you're spending time learning about his interest and he's not doing anything to kind of do the same for you, that might be a red flag.
he likes cats now.
Yeah, I think it's really important because, well, like you guys said, I think it's cool if you show him you listened. You know, I think it's cool if you showed him you listened and that you paid attention to what he's saying and that you showed genuine interest in his interest. So then that makes him feel validated because, you know, he knows that I'm telling her something and she actually remembered. And I think that's important. But going above and beyond, it might seem a little overbearing that you're trying too hard. And so, for example, like my husband is a diehard Eagles fan. I didn't even know what Eagles was. Until like I've been married to him for 2 years, and then he was watching football. I was like, oh, is that the Eagles? He's like, no, that's a Seahawk. I'm like, but they're both a bird. You know what I mean? and then I watched, and then they just like won the Super Bowl, but like he knew I was secretly still rooting for Tom Brady. So he's like, he's trying to give me like Eagles jerseys and stuff, and I'm just like reluctantly jumping on the bandwagon basically for Eagles. I'm like, you're my husband, I'll support you. But I have no idea what any of this is. I don't even know the rules of football. Yeah.
Eagles are a big no in Dallas.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, I think, if I asked him, like, what would you have liked it if I became, like, hardcore Eagles fan from the beginning when I, met you? He's like, that may actually be a little weird because especially knowing that you didn't have initial genuine interest, and if you're trying to like try too hard, it might actually make me feel a little awkward about it.
Like turned off.
Yeah, exactly. Because he might feel like,
you're trying to change too much.
Yeah. And then because he's like, one of the things I liked about you was that you're very confident and you knew who you were. And that's attractive to him because he knew that I knew who I was and what I was looking for and what my interests are. It's like everything he likes about you, if you try to give that up to try to accommodate him, then you may even lose that attraction because he might be like, well, I liked her for these reasons, but now she kind of looks like me and dresses like me. And
you start dressing like him.
Now it's getting a little weird.
It's getting just a little creepy.
Yeah. So another tip that she gave was if you smother the guy with obligations and rules, such as he has to do certain things, he has to check in with you, explain where he was when he wasn't with you, that can also be a turn off to the guy.
Goodness.
Because, if he offers to share with you, hey, I was here and I was doing this with my mom and I was doing that with my friend, you graciously welcome that information, but it's not like you expect him to tell you everything and you get upset with him if he doesn't. Because if you do it that way, it may have negative impacts on his perception of his freedom and identity at the beginning of the relationship. So that can maybe push a guy away. Do you guys have any experience with that? Kind of like setting too many rules or knowing people that have done that and seeing the effects of that on the guy?
I haven't experienced it myself. I guess I'm coming from the other end. Some of the guys I was talking to wanted to check in constantly, and I was like, look, I work in a dental office. I can't have my cell phone on me all the time. That's against HIPAA rules and everything. But they would constantly be like, what's going on? Why aren't you talking to me and everything? And it's just like, I can't.
That sounds needy.
Yeah, it does sound like, just thinking about it, it sounds like really clingy, and especially on like first dates or even before
Yeah,
you've
especially
met
in the
someone.
beginning, that's a little crazy. I will admit though, in my last relationship, we were we were fine in the beginning, but like we got more and more unhealthy, and him and I would do it both ways. Like he would do it to me starting out, so then it would make me do it to him, because I would feel like, okay, well, you want to know like all this stuff about where I'm at, so like I want to know where you're at, kind of thing. And so it was really unhealthy, and like I said, we're not together anymore, but that was the 3-year long relationship that I was in. And like I said, in the beginning it was really good, but towards the end it just got to be really, really bad, because we would do things like that, and it, like, I didn't feel like I had any freedom, so I was almost like hungry to like go out and do my own thing, because I never got to, and it was the same for him. So it's just not good to do that.
So it's almost like pushing each other away. The
Yeah,
more
we both
controlling
did.
you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that she also talked about is, this kind of leads into another tip that she had. If you've noticed that the men that you're not really interested in, not paying attention to, not trying to impress, are always trying to chase you. For example, like you barely talk to them, you ignore them most of the time, but they're always there. You know, that's kind of what she's saying, that at the beginning, you putting in all this effort, trying to initiate conversation, trying to do all this stuff is unnecessary, as long as he already knows that you exist and he already made that contact with you. Because men, especially at the beginning, they want a challenge. They want to see if they can change your mind about them, or they want to pursue something that they feel is worthy of, getting. So if you're too available and you're always, checking in with him and all that stuff and becoming needy up, off the bat, that may actually push him away, versus actually letting him know, hey, my time is valuable. And kind of like what you were saying, Megan, when all these guys you're not talking to them because you're working, but at the same time they're getting antsy because they're like, why is she not talking to me? And then they're working themselves up because you're not available.
Good job. You're working them up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Have you guys noticed stuff like that, where the more you try to contact them, the more like they're more likely to fall away from you, and the less you contact them, the more they're trying to get to you?
It's kind of funny the way that works. But if it's true, if you are very available, I think you get put on that back burner, because they know they're like, oh, she'll be there no matter what.
Yeah.
Like I don't have to talk to her all the time, and I know she's gonna stay there. She is there, because you seem needy and clingy, like, oh my gosh, I'm here, hi.
Yeah.
Like as soon as they get on and like message you, they're like, oh yes, they messaged me, I gotta message them back.
Yeah, like seconds later, you're like, they're like, she's been waiting all day long for my text.
It's almost like a chain. Everybody wants the chase. So you always strive for those people, and striving for you.
Yeah.
I think it kind of works both ways, because it's kind of unfair at the beginning, because when girls do the chase, it doesn't always work. But when the guys chase you, it's almost like they kind of break you down eventually, and you kind of give in, because you realize that they're really genuine, they really mean it, and kind of thing. But if a girl does that, I think the guy just kind of runs away. I don't know how well that works. So it's almost better to kind of let the guy prove to you that he is very interested, and let him kind of do the chase at the beginning. And I know that's kind of sexist, but sometimes that kind of is the way it works out, because you could end up putting a lot of effort and emotional dependence on a person who's really not that invested in you, and that at the end you just kind of get yourself hurt that way. When a guy feels that he had to work really hard to get your attention, to get your time, to work his way into your life, he feels that you chose him because of his behaviors, or his way of showing you respect, his way of prioritizing you. The way he values and respects you is something that he's going to learn as something that you expect from him. So that way, when you set that initial kind of foundation that, if you want my time, you have to earn it kind of thing, he will be less likely to take you for granted, because he knows that he's earned your respect, love, and affection, as it wasn't given to him freely. And he knows that you won't give it freely to anybody else, because you were like that at the beginning anyway. But I know that sometimes even in any relationship, we still feel insecure about different things. Some women tend to compare, ourselves to other women, or we get nervous and we start rambling on dates, or we're paralyzed by this guy just because he's so good looking we can't even talk. Have you ever felt that way about a guy where you just felt like your insecurities, you're wearing it on your sleeve kind of thing?
Well, I don't know about insecurities, but I do know about being awkward on dates for sure. And I will ramble. That's for sure. Or it goes one of two ways for me. It's either I'll ramble just because I feel like I need to fill the silence, or there is that wonderful awkward silence if we've run out of things to talk about. And a lot of the times I feel like if there is too much awkward silence, that's probably not going to be a second date.
Aw.
But do you feel like the guy ever makes you feel insecure? So for example, like he's checking out other girls in front of you, he's doing things that's making you feel like you're not enough, and do you feel that the trust should already be there? If he's willing to treat that way, is it worth your time to pursue a relationship like that?
There was one time I went on a date and I almost felt like he was flirting with our waitress, and she was flirting back, and I almost like kind of just felt like the tension between them. And it was a first date, so it's like, who am I to say this is my man? So we were just kind of getting to know each other, but I just realized like he is just a really flirtatious person, and I think that was a turnoff because it was like I don't even know if he realized he was doing it, and it's only day one, and he has that attitude just naturally, which is probably what caught me, but but not long term.
Yeah. I think that would just thinking about that, being in that situation, like, makes me feel very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, being on a first date and, like, this guy took you out to dinner and he's flirting with someone else. It's kind of like, why am I even here? You know what I mean? So.
And it's like he could flirt, we're both single, we're still getting to know each other, but I think it's the respect of doing it in front of me that just sets the expectations.
Shows, yeah,
of
that's
respect.
the kind of guy he is, kind of thing.
It doesn't even make you feel special after a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you feel, though, looking at that waitress, why he specifically was looking at her? Were you comparing yourself to her?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's natural. That's a natural way to think, especially being a girl. It's not necessarily thinking, is she prettier than me? It's what does he think? Does he think she's prettier than me? Wasn't necessarily my insecurities. It was my insecurities of thinking, what does he think? Because, no matter how good you feel about yourself, if someone doesn't see that, you can't change someone else's perspective on you.
Yeah.
But I think that was a bad way of thinking about things.
Yeah, I think if you start thinking, how does he feel about me and stuff, you're almost relying your self-worth and your confidence on his perception of you. And so instead of focusing on what he thinks, you should focus on what you think. Like, you should just look at this relationship. Do you have the trust? Do you trust this guy? If you don't trust this guy, why should you have to feel like other women are a threat? Because it's going to be a constant threat. If you know that his eyes are wandering, you're going to feel like that indefinitely with this person. And so it's not really fair to you to kind of stay in a situation like that, because you can't change him. You can change yourself. You can see how you perceive it and how you want to respond to it. But even if you really like him and he does that, it's probably not worth your time.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest things that she recommends is that your actions always speak louder than words. One of the things that women kind of get into is nagging. So if you start nagging at him because you want to communicate, you're frustrated, he's doing something, and you want to get that through to him by telling him, this made me feel this way, I didn't like this, you did that, and whatever. But nagging will naturally tune him out, and so he will actually feel more distant from you, but your actions will be more powerful. So if you feel like, he's taking you for granted, if you pull back a little and keep a little distance or put up some boundaries, he will actually sense that, he's losing you, And then that's a more powerful feeling than you nagging at him, because he probably will just do whatever you say just to stop you from nagging, but it doesn't mean like he intuitively figures out that, hey, I'm not treating her the way she expects, so I need to change. He's going to do something just like, I'm just going to make sure she can stop talking kind of thing. How do you guys feel about that? And do you ever catch yourself nag in any previous relationships and how that's worked out?
I'm trying to think. I'm sure I did it. I've been with my husband, 20 years. So I'm sure I've nagged here and there every so often. Probably not a good quality to have. I know, but I'm sure I've caught myself a few times doing that where I'm not really getting, I'm just being like I know I'm not really getting my point across. I'm just kind of being more annoying than anything. But I realize, sometimes he's a good man. He pretty much will just be open and be like, what's going on? Just talk to me. Mm-hmm. I know you're upset, or I know you're bothered by something. He's more just talk to me. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I tell him maybe whatever it is that's bothering me, then we can clear it up. He's like, I didn't know I made you feel that way. He's like, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I thought I don't see it the way you did. I was maybe doing this and saying it this way, but you took it another way. So it's a big thing of communication. If they would just say, just be forward. I know as girls, we sometimes play little mind games. I don't know how guys really like that, of the guessing game of like, I don't know if she's mad, but she's giving me the silent treatment.
See, that's with me. Like, I don't nag, but like if there's something that I don't like, then I'm just kind of like standoffish, or like like you get the
cold shoulder.
Yeah, the cold shoulder kind of thing. So that's kind of how I am. But I do notice that like whenever I do kind of don't nag, but more just like be more standoffish, then it does raise the question where they come to you and they're like, what's going on? Like, just tell me like why you're upset kind of thing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Rather than, I feel like if you nag, then they just don't want to talk to you. They're just kind of like, I'm going to go over here because you're being really annoying.
You're like, you're in a bad mood. I'm just going to walk away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference between honest and direct communication versus nagging is that nagging involves repeating yourself and spelling out how he should behave. So basically, it's kind of like you're being like a mother instead of a lover, basically. When you're talking to him, it's better to kind of keep it simple and directly communicate what you're feeling, and kind of share with him, this is how it makes me feel, and then just end it at that, instead of repeating yourself over and over to make sure he got the point. Because once you communicate that, like my husband was saying, you have to speak your mind and be confident, and be kind of gracious with us, because we can't read your mind. Yeah. So if we did something to upset you and you're all upset and flustered over there, it just makes us uncomfortable. We're scared to approach you, but we don't want to have the talk either. But if we did something, we want to know what we did. But then if you can keep it respectful instead of accusing him of things, jumping to conclusions, things like that, kind of just let him know, this is what happened and this is how I feel about it. And that way he understands, but then that's the end of that, and if he doesn't change in the future, then that's something that you need to consider, but you're not going to be able to control him by nagging at him, over that over and over. But it kind of works both ways, because we have all these high expectations of how a man's supposed to behave, but we also have to look at ourselves and make sure that we're doing the same thing, like showing him respect and things like that. Showing appreciation, acknowledging when he's being kind to you and generous with you is one of the biggest things to do, because a lot of times you'll go on a date and a lot of women may take for granted that the guy's going to pay. So you just kind of assume like he's going to pay, and you just act like this is kind of expected, and but you still want to show him that you appreciate that he did, and that express to him how gracious you are for what he did. So that way he doesn't feel like, well, I'm being taken for granted by this girl.
Yeah, it's all
and that,
expected.
Yeah, and that they feel like you're more high maintenance than you were trying to, seem like. And the other thing that she talked about was make sure that you're happy with yourself, because it makes the man want to be near you more. Like, he'll feel more attracted to you. He'll feel lucky to be around you if you're happy by yourself. If you come to him with all your negative problems all the time, then it's almost like, that friend that only calls you when she breaks up with someone, like once every couple of years and you never hear from her, in between, it just seems like a drag on them. So they want to know that you're a positive influence in their life also, instead of expecting them to fix everything for you. So do you guys have any experience with any of that stuff? Like how you present yourself is the way that the guy perceive you, like your actions, how happy you are is what attracts him to you.
Well, I can actually probably definitely talk about that. At the end of my last relationship, it had gotten pretty bad towards the end. I probably stuck in that relationship so long just because I felt like he was the only guy that would have me, that if I broke up with him and everything, then nobody else would kind of really like want me and things like that. So my self-confidence was pretty low. And everything. And once I got out of that, I told myself, it's like, okay, that's the first thing I've got to work on. I've got to get my confidence back up. I have to learn to like myself before I can even think about any other guy liking me. And so now that I've definitely built that confidence back up, I mean, I know I'm great. Everything.
You're hot. Don't worry.
And I can definitely walk into like a room or wherever we're meeting, and it's like I don't have to like hunch my shoulders like, oh my gosh, he's gonna start judging me right off the bat, because it's like, well, if he does, I know I'm great. I don't really need his validation to know that, I like myself.
You learned your self-worth.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
I did.
Yeah. Sometimes if a guy takes you for granted for a long period of time, it changes your perception of yourself, and then you start viewing yourself with how he views you. Let's say he criticizes you a lot over little things here and there. It'll make you kind of feel like you're walking on eggshells around him, and you'll feel like you can't be yourself and everything you're doing is wrong, and he blames you for this and that, and then it just kind of, your self-worth just gets lowered and lowered. Sometimes it takes walking away from that situation to really get yourself back, and realize, I'm not going to put up with that again. I'm not going to let someone treat me like that again. And to kind of close off our first podcast about dating, I think one of the most important things about the first date or getting to know someone is the first kiss, because that way you understand, your chemistry level, and it could be a break the deal kind of thing. So like,
oh gosh,
like sometimes the guy would be great, and then slobber kiss, and it just kind of ends the chemistry kind of thing. And I know with my husband, on our first date, I felt like there was a very subtle but powerful initial attraction. And he just did a lot of things right. He said the right things, and I just wanted to know if there was physical chemistry, not just, by looks, but by actually, two people interacting. So I held his hand, and I dragged him behind a vending machine. Because we were at an airport, so I'm just like, you know what? I just need to find a place where, we can kiss and everything. And he didn't even question it. He just went with it. And then later, he was like, yeah, I had no idea that was going to happen. That was a big surprise and whatever. But it was fun because it kind of gave me that assurance that, I need to know that there's chemistry, instead of just everything looks good on books, everything looks good on paper, and we like each other, but where's that initial, chemistry? Do you guys have experience with good or bad first kisses?
Taylor.
I feel like that doesn't even count.
And maybe reflect on how important it is to you. Is it important?
Yeah, I think it's
definitely sets the
absolutely.
tone.
It does. I mean, I'm trying to think back, and I was still a teenager back then, but still, it was one of those. You don't think it was as important, but once it happens, I mean, I know I like this guy. He was captain of the basketball team, so I knew, but he was smart and athletic, which was my type. I was like, this is great. He's cute. Yeah, first date had that awkward kiss that I know he had. I think he thought he knew what he was doing, but clearly he didn't. And I could I didn't. No matter what, that one kiss just kind of sealed the deal of like, yeah, this isn't happening. I don't care. You got all these other qualities, but that alone just like, yeah, no, I can't see myself even doing that a second time. I'm like, I think I'm a little nauseous right now just thinking of it. But you would think it's just not a big deal, but I think it is.
Yeah, it is for sure.
Do you guys have any other comments about that? Is it important to the rest of you?
Well, I do think it's important, but a lot of the times I've noticed, even before it even comes to the first kiss, like how they like touches and kind of like physical contact and everything. I know if a guy holds my hand very awkwardly, like he doesn't know how to hold hands, that odds are that the first kiss is not going to work out at all.
You can weed out the first kiss if he doesn't know how to hold your hand.
Yeah.
There will be no first kiss.
I'm just gonna set that out there now.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh my goodness.
It can definitely help though.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
if you're still wondering, but then like they kiss really good and you're like, okay, this is helping.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes a date doesn't go that well, but then they kiss you and they're a great kisser and you're like, I don't know if this kid is going to save you, but it was nice. You know? It's nice that you actually know how to kiss. So I don't think it can save the relationship, but it's definitely a good, you know, first step towards a long-term.
That's definitely a pro in your list of cons.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're listening to RNCN, the digital destination for premium talk radio.